I'll never forget the way her voice sounded on the other end of the phone that night. Sharp, cold, like she had rehearsed those words over and over before saying them. My daughter, my only child, the little girl I had raised alone after her mother passed, said to me, "Dad, you're not welcome for Christmas." That was it. No explanation, no hesitation, just a sentence that cut me deeper than any knife ever could. Now, I've been through a lot in my 52 years. I've buried the love of my life. I've worked 3 jobs at once to keep food on the table. I've walked into classrooms full of restless teenagers and somehow gotten them to care about American history. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for hearing those words from Lily. I remember pausing, gripping the phone tighter. My heart was thundering so loud I thought she might hear it through the line. I wanted to ask why, to beg for an explanation, to remind her of the Christmas mornings when she'd leap onto my bed at 5 a.m., shouting, "Santa came, Dad, wake up." But instead, I did something different. I smiled, not because I was okay, not because I accepted it, but because that was the only way I knew how to protect myself in that moment. If I didn't smile, I would break. And if I broke, I wasn't sure I'd be able to piece myself back together. So I forced my voice into a calm, steady tone, the kind a father uses when he's pretending everything is fine for the sake of his child. "All right, sweetheart," I said softly. "If that's what you want, I'll stay home." There was silence on her end. Just silence. And then the line went dead. I sat there for a moment, staring at the phone like it had betrayed me. The glow of the Christmas lights I'd strung up in my living room suddenly felt mocking, like they were shining down on a man who no longer belonged anywhere. I slipped on my coat, grabbed my car keys, and walked out to the driveway. The cold December air bit at my face, sharp enough to sting, but not sharp enough to distract me from the ache in my chest. Sliding into the driver's seat, I gripped the steering wheel and just sat there. The house behind me, my home for over 20 years, stood quiet, decorated, waiting for a family gathering that now wouldn't happen. I turned the ignition and let the engine rumble to life. The radio kicked on, some cheery holiday song spilling through the speakers. I snapped it off immediately. I couldn't bear the sound of other people celebrating joy when mine had just been ripped away. As I backed out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. My smile was still there. That fake, painted-on smile. My late wife, Sarah, used to call it my teacher smile, the one I wore in front of my students even on the hardest days. She always said, "Ethan, your smile fools everyone, but it doesn't fool me." And in that moment, I realized she'd been right. My smile wasn't fooling anyone, not even me. I drove through the quiet streets of town, passing houses glowing with decorations. Families were inside laughing, clinking glasses, preparing for the holiday together. I felt like a ghost drifting past windows full of life. By the time I pulled into the empty parking lot of the diner on Main Street, my phone buzzed. One text from my brother, Mark. "Heard about Lily. Don't take it personal. She's got her reasons. Her reasons." I wanted to scream. What reason could possibly justify telling your father he wasn't welcome for Christmas? After everything I'd given up, after everything we'd survived together, how could she just push me aside like that? But I didn't scream. Instead, I typed back, "It's fine. I'm fine." That was the first lie. The second was the smile I wore as I put the car in drive and headed home. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly known, was that 3 days later, that same phone would be lit up with 20 missed calls. Calls from Lily, calls from Mark, calls that would drag me into the kind of truth no father ever wants to hear. And if you've ever thought your world was steady, safe, unshakable, let me tell you this. It only takes one sentence to bring it crashing down. When you've lived alone for as long as I have, you get used to the silence. The creaks of the old house become voices. The hum of the refrigerator becomes company. And the faint smell of cinnamon candles, I light them every December because Sarah loved them, becomes a reminder that the people you miss most can still linger in the smallest ways. That December, I told myself things would be different. I was sure this year was the one where Christmas might feel like Christmas again. I had hope, even if it was fragile. I woke up early on December 20th. Sunlight spilling through the blinds onto the living room floor, illuminating the boxes of ornaments I'd dragged out from the attic. My late wife, Sarah, had labeled every single box before she passed, her handwriting still neat and patient. Lights, red and gold, tree toppers, Lily's childhood ornaments. I ran my hand across those words like they were treasures. I set up the tree in the corner of the room, a little crooked the way it always was, and started hanging ornaments. The little ballerina Lily made in 3rd grade, the angel Sarah had bought on our first Christmas together, the silly snowman Mark gave me when I became a father. Each ornament carried a story, and each story carried me back to better days. By mid-afternoon, the house was glowing. Wreath on the door, stockings above the fireplace, candles flickering in the windows. From the outside it looked warm, festive, alive. From the inside, it was just me. Still, I believed this year would change. Lily had been distant these last few holidays, sure, but she was working so hard at the hospital, as she was grieving her mother in her own way. I told myself it was just timing, circumstances. That eventually she'd come around. That's why I went out shopping, determined to find her something meaningful. I wandered store aisles with purpose, even though my chest tightened each time I imagined Christmas morning without Sarah there. I bought Lily a silver locket engraved with her mother's initials, thinking maybe it would remind her that even in her absence, her mom was still with us. I wrapped it carefully when I got home, pressing the tape across the wrapping paper with steady hands. I even wrote to Lily "Love Dad" in my best handwriting. It wasn't about the gift itself. It was about showing her that I still cared, that I was still here. That night, I called my mom, Grandma June. She always knows when something's wrong before I even say a word. "House all decorated?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied, forcing a cheerful tone. "It looks like one of those Hallmark commercials, just waiting for Lily to show up and make it complete." There was a pause. Then her gentle voice, "Ethan, don't put too much pressure on her. Sometimes grief makes people push away the ones they love most." I hated hearing that. I wanted to believe Lily and I were unshakable, no matter what. But part of me knew Grandma was right. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wrapped gifts, my phone lying face up beside me. I imagined Lily walking through the door, cheeks flushed from the cold, her smile lighting up the room the way Sarah's once did. I pictured us drinking hot cocoa, watching old movies, maybe even laughing for the first time in years. But when the phone finally rang, her voice didn't carry warmth. It carried distance. "Dad," she said flatly, "I think it's better if you don't come this year." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "Lily, it's Christmas. It's complicated. I can't handle it right now. Please, just don't." I fell silent. Every word I wanted to say lodged in my throat like gravel. I wanted to ask, am I the problem? Do you blame me for your mother's death? Do you hate me for trying to hold on to her memory? But I couldn't. Instead, I whispered, "If that's what you want." The call ended. The house grew quieter than ever. The tree lights blinked in the corner, steady and cheerful, as if mocking the hollowness that spread through me. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at the wrapped locket, and I realized something. This Christmas wouldn't be about family, joy, or togetherness. It would be about facing the one truth I had avoided for years. Sometimes the people you love most can leave you standing outside in the cold. And for the first time, I wondered if I had already lost my daughter long before she told me I wasn't welcome. When I hung up the phone that night, my house didn't feel like home anymore. The blinking Christmas lights that had seemed comforting just hours earlier now felt like lies, shining in a room where no laughter would echo, no family would gather. I sat in the recliner, staring at the wrapped locket on the coffee table. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Was it the way I clung to traditions after Sarah passed? Maybe Lily thought I was forcing her to keep living in the past. Or maybe she just didn't need me anymore. The thoughts spun in my head like a cruel carousel that never stopped turning. I tried to push it aside by turning on the TV, but every channel was filled with cheerful families, commercials with smiling kids opening presents, couples kissing under mistletoe. It was like the entire world was mocking me, reminding me of what I had lost. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. My heart leapt, hoping it was Lily calling back to say she'd changed her mind. But it was just a text from my brother, Mark. Heard you're not coming to Lily's this year. Just give her some space, Ethan. She's figuring stuff out. I stared at that message for a long time. My brother had always been the peacemaker in the family, but in that moment it felt like he was siding with her. So I called him. Mark, I said, trying to steady my voice, do you know why she doesn't want me there? There was a pause. Then he sighed. She's carrying a lot, Ethan. You know that. The hospital's been rough. And the holidays, well, they remind her of Sarah. Maybe being around you just makes it harder. Harder? I snapped. I'm her father. I've been here every day of her life. I'm the one who tucked her in, who stayed up late helping with school projects, who walked her down the aisle at her high school graduation after Sarah passed. How could I be the problem? Ethan, Mark said gently, grief doesn't make sense. Don't take it personal, but how could I not? My own daughter had just told me I wasn't welcome. After that call, sleep was impossible. I lay awake in the dark, listening to the old clock ticking in the hallway, each second drilling the rejection deeper into me. The next morning, I tried to shake it off. I went through the motions, making coffee, feeding the dog, even sweeping the porch. But the emptiness followed me. Everywhere I turned in the house, Sarah's memory and Lily's absence collided like thunder. Later that afternoon, I drove to the grocery store, hoping a crowded place might dull the ache. But it didn't. I passed families picking out hams, couples arguing over which pie to buy, kids begging for candy canes. Every face reminded me of what I was missing. At the checkout line, the cashier, a young woman no older than Lily, smiled and said, "Big holiday plans?" I swallowed hard. "Not this year," I muttered. When I got home, Grandma June called. Her voice was warm but weary. "Ethan, honey, Lily loves you. You know that. She's just lost." "I don't understand, Mom," I admitted, my voice cracking. "I did everything I could for her." I thought I was enough. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then she said, "Sometimes love isn't about being enough. It's about letting people find their way back to you." Even if it hurts, I didn't want to hear that. I wanted a solution, an explanation, something I could fix. But instead I was left with the one thing I hated most: waiting. As Christmas crept closer, the house felt heavier. I avoided the tree, avoided the presents, avoided the locket wrapped neatly in shiny paper. I stopped answering the phone unless it was work. I couldn't stand another voice telling me to give her space. The conflict wasn't just between me and Lily, it was inside me. Part of me wanted to drive straight to her apartment, knock on her door, and demand she explain herself. But another part of me, the part tired from years of grief, told me to retreat, to let her go if that's what she wanted. Every time I walked past Sarah's photo on the mantel, I felt her eyes on me, as if she were silently asking, "Why aren't you fighting for our daughter?" The truth was, I didn't know if I had any fight left. So I waited. I sat in the quiet house, days slipping by like shadows, trying to hold myself together while the one person I had left in this world pushed me away. And all the while, the question gnawed at me. Was I the reason she couldn't bear Christmas anymore? Christmas Eve arrived like a storm I couldn't stop. I'd been dreading it since the moment Lily told me not to come. The days leading up had been a blur of restless nights, unanswered questions, and that endless ache in my chest. But when I woke up that morning, the choice was staring me in the face: fight my way into her life or respect her request and stay away. I wanted so badly to knock on her door, to force her to see me, to remind her that I wasn't going anywhere. But every time I imagined her face, I heard her voice again. "Dad, you're not welcome." And I knew that if I pushed, I might lose her completely. So I made a decision. I would step back. Not because I didn't love her, but because sometimes loving someone means giving them the very thing that destroys you: space. I tried to convince myself it was the right thing. I told myself, she'll come around, she just needs time. But deep down, I wondered if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I spent the morning tidying the house, trying to keep busy. I vacuumed the rug in the living room, even though it didn't need it. I polished the old dining table Sarah and I had bought when we first moved in, and when I came across the box of holiday movies, I set them aside. Maybe I'd watch one later, or maybe I'd just let them sit there, unopened, like the presents under the tree. Around noon, I put on a pot of chili, Sarah's recipe, the one she always made on Christmas Eve. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and familiar, but instead of comfort, it only reminded me of who was missing. As the day wore on, I forced myself to pick up the phone and call my mom. I didn't want her worrying about me. "Merry Christmas Eve, Mom," I said, mustering as much cheer as I could. "Merry Christmas, honey," she replied, her voice gentle. "What are you up to?" "Oh, you know," I said lightly, "making chili. Watching the snow, just keeping it simple this year." There was a pause. Then she asked the question I dreaded. "Did Lily call?" I swallowed hard. "No, but it's fine. She needs her space." I could hear the sadness in her silence. "Ethan, you're a good father. Don't forget that." "Thanks, Mom," I whispered, blinking back tears. "Don't worry about me." "I'm fine." That was another lie. By evening, the world outside had grown quiet. Snow had begun to fall, soft flakes gathering on the window ledge, muffling the sounds of the street. Inside, the house glowed with Christmas lights, but the warmth felt hollow. I set the table anyway: one bowl of chili, one glass of water, one plate. I ate slowly, staring at the empty chair across from me. In my mind, I filled it with Sarah's laughter or Lily's smile, but reality always snapped me back. It was just me. After dinner, I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat by the fireplace. I watched the flames dance, remembering the way Sarah used to curl up beside me, her head on my shoulder, whispering about the future we were building. I wondered what she would say if she were here now. Maybe she'd tell me not to give up. Maybe she'd tell me to drive to Lily's apartment anyway, knock on the door, and refuse to leave until she let me in. Or maybe she'd say what my mother had said: sometimes love means letting go, just for a little while. So I sat there, torn between the man I wanted to be, the fighter, the father who wouldn't quit, and the man I was becoming, tired and afraid of pushing too hard. In the end, I chose patience. I placed Lily's gift under my own tree, right beneath the star Sarah had bought all those years ago. I told myself that someday, maybe next Christmas, maybe the one after that, I would finally get to hand it to her. Before bed, I called Mark to wish him Merry Christmas. "Hey," he said, his voice full of the background noise of family chatter. "How are you holding up?" "I'm good," I lied again. "Just taking it easy." "Don't worry about me. You know she loves you, right?" he said. "She just doesn't know how to show it right now." "I know," I said quietly. "I'll be here when she's ready." After the call, I set my phone on the nightstand, its screen dark and silent. I climbed into bed, staring at the ceiling, the house around me still as a tomb. That was my turning point, my decision: to wait, to hope, to let my daughter find her way back to me. What I didn't know then was that 3 days later I wouldn't have to wonder anymore, because that phone, the one I left untouched that night, would be glowing with 20 missed calls, and those calls would change everything. The morning it happened, I woke up to the sound of silence. It was 3 days after Christmas. The lights on the tree had gone dim, one of the bulbs blinking in that tired, uneven way. The house was cold, the kind of cold that settles into your bones when you've been alone too long. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, and that's when I saw it. 20 missed calls. The screen glowed with Lily's name over and over again. Mixed in were calls from Mark, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. My heart froze. I sat up, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles went white. 20 calls in the span of a night. For a second, I couldn't breathe. All I could think was, something's wrong. I tapped to play the first voicemail. "Dad, it's me." Her voice cracked. "Please call me." I didn't mean it. I didn't mean what I said. "Please, just pick up." The second voicemail was worse. Her words were frantic, almost panicked. "Dad, I need you. Please, answer. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." By the time I reached the fifth one, my hands were shaking. "Grandma's in the hospital," Lily cried. "They don't know if she's going to make it. Please, I can't do this alone. I need you." My chest caved in. Mom, Grandma June, my rock, the one who had been holding our family together with her quiet wisdom, was lying in a hospital bed. And my daughter, the same one who told me I wasn't welcome, was now begging me to come. I grabbed my coat, shoved my feet into my boots, and was out the door in seconds. The cold air hit me like a slap, but it didn't matter. My car engine roared to life, and I sped down the road, phone buzzing in the passenger seat with even more calls and texts. As I drove, I played the last voicemail Lily had left. Her voice was broken, raw with regret. "Dad, please, I was wrong. I pushed you away because every Christmas makes me think of Mom, and it hurts too much. But now I realize I need you more than ever. Please don't give up on me." Tears blurred my vision, but I kept my eyes on the road. Her words echoed in my head. "Please, don't give up on me." When I reached the hospital, I barely parked before jumping out of the car. The sliding doors whooshed open, and there she was, Lily, standing in the waiting area. Her hair was messy, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked like the little girl I used to rock to sleep, not the grown woman who had pushed me away. The moment she saw me, she broke. She ran straight into my arms, clinging to me like she was drowning, and I was the only thing keeping her afloat. "Dad," she sobbed into my chest. "I'm so sorry." I didn't mean it. I didn't mean any of it. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her as tightly as I could. My voice trembled, but I managed to whisper, "It's all right, sweetheart. I'm here now. I've always been here." For a long moment, we just stood there, father and daughter reunited in the middle of a sterile hospital lobby, surrounded by strangers who probably thought nothing of it. But for me, it was everything. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were filled with guilt. "I thought pushing you away would make it easier. Every time I looked at you, I saw Mom. I didn't know how to handle it." I brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Lily, I see her too, every day, but that doesn't mean we have to face it apart." Her lips trembled. "I thought I was protecting myself. But all I did was hurt you, and now Grandma—" Her voice cracked again. I held her shoulders firmly. "Listen to me. No matter what happens with Mom or with Grandma, you'll never lose me. I'll never leave you. Do you understand?" She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. A nurse appeared and called her name, and Lily turned back toward the hallway that led to Grandma's room. I followed close behind, my hand on her shoulder, a silent promise that she wouldn't walk this road alone. When we entered the room, I saw my mother lying there, frail but breathing. Machines beeped steadily beside her. Lily took her hand, whispering softly, and I stood on the other side, watching the two most important women in my life connected by a thread of love and fear. In that moment, I realized the missed calls weren't just about Grandma's health. They were about my daughter reaching out, finally tearing down the wall she had built between us. The rejection, the silence, the distance, it all broke apart in that hospital lobby when Lily clung to me and begged me not to give up on her. And I knew then that no matter how fractured we had been, love had found its way back. The hours in that hospital felt like days. Machines hummed, nurses whispered, and every second stretched as we waited for news on Grandma June. Lily never let go of her hand, and I never let go of Lily. Eventually, the doctor came in, his face calm but tired. "She's stable," he said. "It was a scare, but she's a fighter. She needs rest, but she's going to be all right." Relief crashed over me like a wave. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, and Lily collapsed into my arms again, sobbing with gratitude. For the first time in years, we weren't father and daughter standing on opposite sides of grief. We were a family, holding each other together. When Grandma stirred and opened her eyes, the first thing she whispered was, "You two, finally, side by side again." Her frail smile was enough to remind me that even in weakness, she was still the anchor. After hours at her bedside, Lily and I drove back to my house. The drive was quiet, but it wasn't the cold silence from before. It was heavy with unspoken words waiting to be released. When we pulled into the driveway, Lily stared at the house, glowing softly with Christmas lights. "You still decorated?" she murmured. "Of course," I said. "Your mom would have haunted me if I didn't." That earned the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her in months. Inside, the smell of chili still lingered faintly, and the tree stood proud in the corner. Lily's eyes fell on the presents beneath it. One in particular caught her attention, the small silver-wrapped box with her name written in my careful handwriting. She picked it up gently, almost as if she didn't believe it was real. "Dad, you still got me something?" I nodded. "Always." She sat on the couch and unwrapped it slowly. When the locket slid into her hands, she gasped. She opened it, finding Sarah's initials engraved inside, with space for a small photo. Tears welled in her eyes. "Mom," she whispered. Then she looked at me, her voice trembling. "Why did you—" "Because," I said, sitting beside her, "I wanted you to know that your mother isn't gone. Not really. She's here, in you, in me, in everything we do. And no matter how much it hurts, we honor her by staying together, not by drifting apart." She closed the locket in her fist, clutching it to her chest. "I thought pushing you away would protect me. Every time I looked at you, I saw her, and it was too much. But when Grandma was in the hospital, all I wanted was you. I realized I never lost Mom. I was losing you." I reached for her hand. "You'll never lose me, Lily." Not then, not now, not ever. For a long time, we just sat there, the only sounds the faint crackle of the fireplace and the soft hum of the tree lights. It felt like Sarah was with us, watching, maybe even smiling. Later that night, Lily pulled out old photo albums from the bookshelf. We sat on the floor, flipping through page after page of memories. Sarah laughing in the kitchen, Lily with frosting on her face from a birthday cake, our first Christmas in that house. Each picture was a reminder of the life we had built, the love that was still alive even through pain. At one point, Lily leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, just like she had as a little girl. "Dad," she whispered, "I don't deserve how patient you've been with me." I kissed the top of her head. "You don't have to deserve it. You're my daughter. That's enough." That night, for the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. It felt alive again. In the days that followed, Grandma slowly recovered, and Lily came by almost every evening. Sometimes we just sat in silence. Sometimes we cooked together. Sometimes we cried. But no matter what, we faced it together. Looking back now, I realize something important. Love isn't about never being pushed away. It's about choosing to stay even when you're standing outside in the cold. I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is waiting. Waiting for the people you care about to realize that they still need you, waiting to pick up the phone even when you've been hurt, waiting to open your arms when they finally come running back. Christmas that year wasn't perfect. There were no big dinners, no cheerful songs filling the house, no crowds of family gathered around the table. But it was real, it was raw. It was me, my daughter, and the memory of the woman who had built the foundation of our love. And in that imperfection, I found something far more powerful than I ever expected, the proof that even broken families can be made whole again. So when I tell you this story, I don't tell it because it's sad. I tell it because it's true. Because maybe you're out there waiting for a call that hasn't come, or feeling the sting of words that cut too deep. And maybe you're wondering if love can survive it. It can. Because when my daughter told me I wasn't welcome for Christmas, I smiled, got in the car, and drove home. 3 days later, I had 20 missed calls. And those calls didn't just change my holiday. They gave me back my family. And that's my story. A story about rejection, silence, and heartbreak that turned into something I never expected, a second chance. I learned that love doesn't always look neat and tidy. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it makes you wait. And sometimes it breaks you before it heals you. But in the end, it's worth it. Because when the people you love finally reach for you, every second of patience and every ounce of pain feels small compared to the joy of holding them again. If you're going through something similar, if someone you love has pushed you away, don't lose hope. Sometimes they just need time. Sometimes they just need to know that when they finally call, you'll still be there. Now, if this story touched you, if it made you think of your own family or reminded you of someone you love, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit that like button if this story moved you. Share it with someone who might need a reminder that love can always find its way back. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this, real, raw, and full of heart. Thank you for listening. And remember, never give up on the people you love.